Hi, and welcome to this webinar on the Quality Assurance and Regulatory Affairs in Biotechnology Capstone Certificate and the overview of the program and kind of why we have it going. Um, Let me get this going. First, I'd like to introduce our program staff. These are the people that kind of get things rolling in terms of our master's program, but also this certificate. Dr. Natalie Betts is our faculty director. Brian Husk is our administrative associate director. Barbara Bielik is one of our graduate advisors, and I'm Michelle. I'm the program manager. So. First, a little bit of how we got this started. The Quality Assurance and Regulatory Affairs Capstone Certificate was designed in response to talking to a lot of different people, mostly in the Madison area and the School of Medicine and Public Health Office of Biohealth in Industry partnerships. So we started here, but we know that these companies go much farther beyond Wisconsin and the Midwest and reach into not just nationally, but into international affairs for product development. So even though we started in Madison, we think of this as being going much further. So I want to start with a quote from an industry leader. And this person said, and I thought they kind of summed it all up very nicely, is the certificate fills the gaps in understanding the differences between quality assurance and quality control and how it relates to regulatory affairs in product development and patient safety. And those are the two kickers, right? Product development and patient safety. That's what we're all here for. And our roles are always changing in a company. And if you think of being in a small startup where we wear many hats, we might be doing all of the parts. Or if we're in a larger company, the quality assurance and regulatory affairs or compliance groups might be an office or a whole department. But regardless of that role, we're always working with other staff, other departments, and other customers. Before you start talking about the courses in their certificate, I just want to talk a little bit about the jobs as well, because they kind of go hand in hand, right? As professionals, we follow a lot and subscribe to a lot of different avenues that keep us in tune with the industry, and so we can keep our eye out for trends. And so this is just one place where I go to look at and see who's merging or acquiring, where outbreaks might be happening, if there's any funding changes that are happening, and also any layoffs that are going on. And I think that this map from biospace.com really shows that we are in this country a lot of different areas, mostly the coasts, obviously, but there's a big part in the Midwest that plays a big role in biotechnology. So, and if we look at this for our 100% online certificate, we're not just talking about the Midwest. We're also talking about the upper and kind of the East Coasts, down south, and then farther out into the West Coast. So these are all places where professionals who might be looking to add to their academic and career portfolios can basically work from those places and still be in the certificate, but also look to see where that next dream job is going to be. When looking at the top life sciences jobs for 2026, we can see here that we have the regulatory affairs specialist or manager pretty far up at the top, quality assurance and quality control specialist, still part of the top 6 or so. So this is really important to see that these are two areas where the life sciences are still looking for people to be. And what I would say is that even though these are specific to regulatory affairs and quality assurance, all of these titles and people who work there have a role in quality and regulatory areas so that we can continue with that efficacy and patient safety model that we're so bound to work with. So even though we have specifics here, all of these jobs relate back to quality and regulatory so that we can get products out of to market. Then what I did was I looked at LinkedIn and Glassdoor and Indeed, and I would just searched for quality assurance and regulatory affairs jobs. I do this periodically. And here's what I thought was very interesting, that we could see that these were the actual titles that popped up most likely and most often for companies that were looking for this. But even more interesting, I think, is over here in the types of departments that were looking for quality and regulatory people go from operations to compliance and management, devices, all sorts of pharmaceuticals, and then into medical laboratories as well, and oncology, but also business, where we're looking at marketing and promotions and all of that part. So every place and every department has a place to play with quality assurance and regulatory compliance measures. So many jobs from the previous slide require at least a bachelor's degree as we were looking. Some require a master's degree. A few others will always require a PhD, but the vast majority of these jobs, over 50%, are at least a bachelor's or a master's degree. Um, the expected growth in the biotechnology market has gone down a little bit after these last 2 years of a little bit of uncertainty, but it's still projected in different places at about 9%. So it's still pretty strong and stronger than other sectors. So this is still a good news for all of us in the biotechnology world. So we also think that this certificate provides an avenue for learners to do other things and gives them an advantage when doing any sort of brainstorming or troubleshooting activity at work, that this certificate allows them to practice some of those skills and expand upon them. So after talking to all of our subject matter experts and looking at all the tracking and trending of things, these were kind of the goals that we came up with for this certificate in quality assurance and regulatory affairs. First one is to expand understanding of the biotechnology and biohealth industry in terms of regulations and requirements. And it's basically expanding the knowledge of the how and the why. Secondly, is to practice concepts that use real world scenarios and using a case study approach. So the assignments kind of use various things that are happening today and how we might respond to them. So it's a nice way of being able to practice some of those things, but then also applying those principles in real time. What you might learn in class, you might be the next week using it in a meeting, and it'll feel pretty organic. We do think that the potential learners for this certificate fall into a lot of different groups. The first group is kind of those recent graduates, those biology majors, genetics majors that have the science behind them, but they don't necessarily have had any classes in the quality assurance or quality control nature or the regulatory needs that are happening in the industry. Another level are going to be these entry level professionals. They might be new professionals or bench level scientists that want to get out of the bench or beyond the bench. And so by having this certificate, it provides a little more of the global understanding that helps you get there. Mid-level professionals also, we feel, could take advantage of the certificate by applying and transferring their skills. Maybe they were not in a quality area or they were in a different department but want to jump in. That would be another way. It could also be for professionals who have done a little bit of different things and they want to upskill or reskill and bring a stronger portfolio into their experience level as they go for a new job. This could also be a really nice certificate, and the courses here, they're at the graduate level. So for people who are not quite ready for graduate school or might need a little boost in a GPA, this might be another way for them to get that. So another one of our subject matter experts, this was a quote from them, and it said, the certificate provides a growth opportunity for current quality assurance auditors to move into higher roles as they expand upon the how and the why of quality assurance and regulatory assurance needs in product development. And this is exactly true. We know that in a lot of companies, the quality auditors are the people that are always doing the checking and rechecking. And sometimes it's a little more difficult, but taking the certificate, you have a more global understanding of why it is. So when you're communicating with different departments or different people, you have a little more assurance of why you're doing your job. So, and it's a great way in class to practice these skills where an assignment might be to how would you respond to an FDA warning letter? We do that in the industry. Not everyone is part of that, but if you are at the bench, you might have heard about it. This will be a way that you can practice writing it as well. So if it does happen in your company, you have that exposure. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the courses. We have three graduate level courses. They finish in about a year or 3 semesters, depending on when you start. And it's 9 credits. So each course is 3 credits long, or 3 credits worth of 3 credits. It's 100% online. We don't have all synchronous sessions, though. We do think it's important for online learners to be able to have some synchronous sessions where they're actually talking with people in real time. So we kind of sprinkle them in. We know that because people might be from all over the country or possibly all over the world, that not everyone will be able to attend them. So those sessions would also be recorded, where people could listen to them after um, the session is finished, but then they would be expected to respond as well. The format that we're using is either a weekly format, follows a semester, so they're 14 weeks long. And they might be where every week is a different module. It could also be that we're using a biweekly type of format where think of it as 7 sessions throughout the semester. And for each session, that first week is going to be pretty heavy on reading, listening to videos, listening to lectures. And then that second week is going to be applying what you've learned into the assignment. So it kind of gives you a nice way of balancing your life work balance there. So let's jump into the 3 courses. The first course, we're calling it a survey of quality assurance and regulatory affairs. It's basically a how to get all the players together, who they are, the language, and bringing it all together. We know that people are going to be coming in at different levels, so this kind of sets the table for all of the other courses. We start with an introduction to product development. And we talk about the agencies, the different agencies all around the world, not just the US, and what is the biotechnology of business. The second module really jumps into the quality assurance, where you're going to be talking about the language and what's expected in terms of the hallmarks of quality and validation and how it pertains to risk and patient safety. In the third module, we talk about regulatory affairs. So we really look into the CFR and the federal or the FDA mostly because this is the US. And we do a case study format based on a letter that comes from the FDA. So you'll be responding to that. We finish up the course with some biomanufacturing information and some budgeting. So you kind of get to see the whole part of, at a very high level, of what goes into quality assurance and regulatory affairs in biotechnology. Our second course is a topics course. We're going to start with drugs and biologics. We do forecast that we're going to expand this topics out, and future topics might be devices, therapeutics, agriculture, or combinations. And what this does is this course really takes a much deeper dive into the quality assurance and regulatory affairs parts to these various topics. So for this first course, when we're talking about drugs and biologics, we're going to start with the product life cycle of the drugs and biologics. Then we're going to talk about quality. Some of this would be to be review, like we are in real world. We're doing some things over and over, but it also helps build on the knowledge base and the global understanding. We're going to talk about manufacturing and approvals, and then implementation, talking about customers, what happens after that product goes to market, and based on feedback from customers and what happens if you have to do a recall. Again, a big part of biotechnology is thinking and taking risks, but then taking those critical steps on mitigating that risk. And then we're going to finish it up with some developing of strategy. So you're going to do some practice on those things. We finish up the certificate with a leadership in biotechnology. So if you think of these three courses, they almost also follow kind of entry level with that survey course, the middle course, kind of more supervisory management level. This leadership last course, think of it more as director or C-suite level. So everyone responds to challenges differently in the world and in the workforce. So this is just another way of doing that. And then this module, we're going back to that 7 modules where it's going to be every 2 weeks. We're going to talk about different leaders and managers. We're going to talk about different communication styles and how to negotiate things, how to lead both local, your own team, or within your company, and how to then lead globally, and how things are going to be different in those aspects. Next, we look at design and feedback impact outcomes. Basically, we're always doing that circle, right? You're developing, designing, implementing, and then feeding it back to how can you do it better or continue on with what we have. We're also going to look at the strengths that we bring to our teams in terms of, what we're good at, but also then looking at what we might need to kind of work on as well. Then we're going to finish it up with basically finances and again, the balancing of risk and goals in terms of how to continue products in the biotechnology industry. Our instructors, we've selected a number of instructors from the Midwest right now, actually in the East Coast, who are proven leaders in the biotechnology industry. So we're looking at people who are not only great leaders in terms of what they do in the biotech industry, in terms of mentoring, training, making sure products get going and continue on in a safe manner, but they also like teaching. So we've all had managers that are very good at what they do, but they might not like the training part or the mentoring part. We are seeking instructors who really enjoy that part of the job because we know that they will bring that to the classroom as well. So they've had a lot of experience doing a variety of teams work and bringing different products to market and writing, obviously, and communicating those things. They all have terminal degrees. And so some are PhDs, some are MBAs or master's degree level, but at terminal degree. In terms of tuition, everyone wants to know that. The application is free, so the application fee is 0. Each course is 3 credits, and they're based on a $1,000 per credit tuition. So each course is really $3,000 for a total of $9,000 for the certificate. One thing to look at if you're interested in this and working with how to help fund your tuition burden is to check with your benefits people or HR and ask them about tuition reimbursement. Many companies will reimburse their staff up to $5,200 a year, which is a little over half of this. And it helps to meet tax standards, both for the company and for the person receiving that tuition reimbursement. If they pay you at a higher rate than that, it might have to come in as earned income, which then puts a little bit of a tax burden on everybody. So that's why the $5,200 is pretty hard and fast. Another way, because this certificate is not a degree program, some companies have professional development funds. So ask your benefits people about that role as well. Could be like the same bucket of money where if people are going to conferences or doing any continuing education or things like that, or bringing in speakers to talk to people about, various things about their jobs. There's a pot of money there. And so for some companies, this certificate could fall under there, and there might be funds available for partial payment to take this course. So how to apply? Basically, we're looking for people who already have bachelor's degrees from an accredited institution. Doesn't have to be from the US. A minimum GPA of a 3.0. That's the same as when you're trying to get into graduate school, so we kind of mimicked that. But please know that if your undergraduate GPA is not 3.0, but close, talk to us about it because we're looking for people who have experience as well. And we know that as we grew up and out and have more experience, and if we're applied learners, sometimes that's harder to show as an undergrad. So do not feel like that 3.0 is a fast breaking point. We do would like to have all people that apply have at least one general biology or a chemistry class that came with a laboratory component. Because we're in biotech, we know that it's pretty heavy on the science, so we just want people that have had that kind of experience. For international students, we do require English proficiency, and the TOEFL and IELTS numbers are down there if you'd like. You can screenshot this QR code that goes to the application page. The documents that we're going to be asking you when you apply is a CV or a resume. Try and make it as up to date as possible. A statement of purpose. Why do you think that the certificate fits your professional and educational needs right now? Transcripts from your last university, because we need someone from a bachelor's degree. You can submit your bachelor's degree. If you already have a master's degree, but you think that this certificate will add to it, you can just send us that one as well. The unofficial transcripts are okay. So you don't have to go and find official transcripts. We also are asking for 2 letters of recommendation that are either from professionals that you work with now, or they could be from academic people that you worked with in the past. And the date to apply, the last date to apply for a spring start is December 15th. So that's basically the whole situation. Thank you for your time, and we can answer any questions that you might have.